Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ivana Formanova, and I'm here on behalf of the Institute of Documentary Film. And I would like to welcome you on the panel discussion Festivals 2.0, How to Approach the Audience in the Post-COVID era. This panel is organized in cooperation with Film New Europe, which is a networking platform for film professionals. And I would like to welcome here on stage Anna Franklin, the General Director of Film New Europe, who would like to say a few words as an introduction.
Thank you very much. Welcome to everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm Anna Franklin, General Director of Film New Europe, and I want to welcome all our panelists, all those in the audience, as well as those watching online. This is the final live stream in this series of events about the future of film in the Visegrad region in the post-pandemic period. I want to thank our panelists, the Visegrad Fund and East Doc Platform. Next slide, please. And the next one, please. FNE is an association of the film institutions of 18 countries speaking 18 languages in this region. Next slide, please. Next. Next slide. Yes. At FNE, we offer you the tools and the business intelligence filmmakers really need. Join the network of Europe's most successful film professionals and subscribe for free to FNE Daily Newswire at www.filmneweurope.com. Welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you in this panel. I am Tomáš Poštulka from Festival One World, and it's our pleasure to collaborate on this panel with East Doc Platform and the Institute of the Documentary Film. We felt some kind of urge to bring this topic to the audience, this topic of, let's say, how to approach audience in the post-COVID, so-called post-COVID era. And that's why we decided to invite the festival representatives from Karlovy Vary, Verzio Film Festival and Krakow Film Festival, and we'll be having the small discussion about how our previous COVID editions went last year, and what are the plans and some kind of things that we have learned during these harsh times. But before this panel discussion, I would like to invite Petr Szczepanik from from the Department of Film Studies at Charles University to give us short keynote speech about the approaches of a festival, not necessarily a festival, but basically audience researches in post-COVID times. So Petr, please join me and walk us through all the difficulties of academic research on festival audiences and audiences in general.
Okay, thank you, Tomáš. And thanks for the invitation. So this will be a short overview of two research projects, basically, which we are still working on with two teams of colleagues. So I will try to go through it pretty quickly, and I will probably not manage to show all the slides, and Tomáš will give me a sign when it's when my time is up. So next slide, please. So first, what are the key changes in the audience experience, audience practices, according to the new literature from the last, let's say, 10 years? So basically there is a multiplication, of course, of audience experiences and practices. Audiences can't be understood in relation to single media anymore because they watch multiple devices, multiple types of content in their daily lives. They combine them, and they are also mobile. So the question is, when are we audiences? And the answer is not as simple as it used to be. We are not audiences when we go to the movies and sit in a movie theater. We are actually audiences throughout the day, our daily routines, because we watch a lot of moving images on our mobile phones while commuting, while waiting in a, let's say, our physician's waiting room, while waking up in the bed, which is actually, surprisingly to me, quite a common practice, as we learned from our focus groups. The first thing to do after we wake up is to watch a YouTube video, and then another one, and so on. So it's difficult to say when are we audiences, what audiences are, what is the core practice of being a viewer. It used to be watching, but now it's also other practices. It's practices such as searching, browsing, scrolling, swiping, recommending, sharing, liking. All of these are linked to being an audience or being a viewer. So it's the borderlines between watching and communicating and interacting are blurred. So we can speak of new audience identities or practices such as commutainment, which is a term of Stuart Cunningham and David Craig, for example, or procrastination viewing. That's viewing during your working time, basically, avoiding work tasks by watching entertainment content during your breaks. So maybe the lunch break is becoming a new prime time, at least for short online videos. The borderline between public and private is also being blurred because we are watching a lot of moving images in public spaces. So what we used to do in our living room, we are now doing in public spaces such as buses, trams, squares, streets, and so on. The family is not the dominant social framework for home viewing anymore. It's actually, the viewing practices are very much individualized, customized, even if we are sitting together in a living room, as we'll see in one of the next slides. And the national community is not the key reference framework for being a part of an audience community anymore. For example, Netflix is building transnational communities of taste rather than addressing national audiences. So that's just to set the field for a discussion. The next slide, please. So how researchers might react to this new situation. So the key issue is how do we as researchers deal with the abundance of data, but also with the secrecy of data produced on audiences by platforms. On the one hand, we have much more data on audience behavior, much more detailed data, personalized data, and so on, produced by Netflix and other platforms. On the other hand, researchers don't have access to it. So audience studies had gone through a period of sort of decline, and now they are hopefully waking up again and trying to develop methods to empirically study actual audience practices in the age of streaming platforms. And by doing that, they would critically approach the claims of one-directional impact of these platforms. So the claims that Netflix and other platforms are changing our user or viewing behavior. Because when you study it empirically, as we tried, you see that people are using Netflix in many different ways. They are fulfilling different kinds of needs, and they are integrating in it to their daily routines in different ways. Quite different from maybe what the interface of Netflix would suggest by producing the personalized algorithmic recommendations, for example. So the next slide, please. So this is just an illustration of what does it mean that the family living room and family as a social institution is not the dominant reference framework anymore for home viewing, because people are watching multiple screens now at the same time. Next slide, please. So the first project we are working on is on cinema going during the pandemics. And we are basically asking how going to the movies changed during the COVID pandemics, and why certain people stopped going to theaters. What reasons, what justifications they have for that, and how home viewing and cinema going relate to each other. Next slide, please. So to start with, this is not our data, this is the data of the Union of Film Distributors in the Czech Republic. So you see the sharp decline of the overall theatrical attendance between 2019, 2020, 2021. So from 18 million to 6 million, and the same with revenues, but the share of Czech films grew. In relative terms, not the attendance in absolute terms, but in absolute numbers, but the share of Czech films in attendance grew from 26 to 48%, which is interesting. So the next slide, please. So here, the first of the preliminary results or outcomes of our survey, which was done in collaboration with one of the research agencies in the Czech Republic, Median, using a representative sample of 2,000 plus respondents. And one of the things we did is we defined 4 groups based on attitudes towards COVID. And you see these 4 groups with percentage shares on the overall population. So you have people who are still loyal cinema goers. They go to the movies as much as they used to before the pandemics. And then you have 2 groups of people who stopped going to the movies and replaced their cinema going habits with online home viewing. The first of them, which is actually the largest group, which we called compensatory non-anxious in relation to COVID, is maybe the most interesting one for you as festival organizers, programmers, and so on. Because these people can be potentially persuaded to return, and their reasons don't relate specifically to COVID, but are maybe more long-term. So they will probably survive the end of the pandemics. The reasons why they stopped going to the movies, because they explain the change in their habits by actually saying that the online viewing became more comfortable for them, and it fulfills specific social or private needs they have. So the next slide, please. So this is an example of the qualitative part of the research, because we are using a mixed method design, combining the quantitative survey with focus groups and individual interviews. This is from one of the focus groups. The focus group looking at the habits of the non-anxious compensatory respondents. Or type of viewers. And this respondent is, on the one hand, saying that going to the movies is still culturally superior than home viewing. So it offers aesthetically and technically higher level of experience, more quality experience. But she at the same time says that she stopped going to the movies and she replaced her habit with watching films at home. And she explained it by saying that online services give her an opportunity to decide quickly based on her immediate mood. They are more comfortable. she can be more spontaneous. So this is very typical. People saying that movie theaters are superior to watching films at home, but they behave differently in the actual practice. So this is very typical. Next slide, please. Next one, please. Okay, so this is first chart. Reasons for going to the movies. You can see, and sorry, this is not translated, but the first one is I want to watch a film in a quiet environment, undisturbed. This is the first reason. Most people said yes to this question. The second one is I want to see a film in a highest technical quality possible. The next one is I go to the movies when my partner proposes it to me, and so on. So it's not about specific films which are desirable to a viewer. This comes in the one, but the last. Question from the bottom. So going to the movies is about a special quality of the film experience, but not necessarily about specific films. Next one, please. And here are reasons for watching films at home. And even more than in the previous chart, in the previous slide, you see that most reasons, the strongest reasons are social or not specifically linked to concrete film titles. So the first one is it's more comfortable and faster than going to the movies. The second one is very important for the interpretation we are proposing. It's spending my time with my partner, friends, or a family. So watching a film at home has social objectives. It's not necessarily about specific film. It's about having a quality time with my partner or my family. The next slide, please. And here are already specific impacts of the pandemics on viewer behavior. So the first one is also very typical. It's a claim that I watched more films which I knew from my previous life and I liked. So I rewatching or comfort viewing, as we call it. So you watch films which you know intimately, you liked, you watch it again, you rewatch it again, and it gives you some comfort at the anxious time of the pandemics. So again, different from watching new films or premiered films. Next slide, please. And this is maybe the most tricky and the most sophisticated part of our quantitative analysis. It's an attempt to predict, to use predictions, AI-based predictions on asking what or asking the artificial intelligence engine, how would you predict a person would like to see to watch a Czech art house film? And these are the features which are strongest in the predictive model. So we don't attempt to predict who would watch a Czech art house film. We use the predictive model to train itself, to learn itself, and to come up with the features which have the strongest predictive power. And I marked some of them which might be interesting for you perhaps, and maybe a little bit surprising. So the Czech film database ČSFD was one of the strongest one. People using ČSFD are likely to watch a Czech art house film, for example, relying on top 10s when deciding what film to watch is another one, or listening to podcasts. When you have red dots on the right, it means there's a positive correlation. When you have blue dots on the right, it's negative. So watching TV Nova, the commercial TV channel, frequently has a negative relationship to the likelihood of liking a Czech art house film and so on. Next one, please, and I will slowly wrap up. This is the next research, which I will be the second one, which I will not talk about in detail. But the main idea was to look at the specific viewing practices linked to short-form online video. Our idea was, because YouTube came up as the most frequently used VOD service, and on YouTube you have mostly short-form videos. So we had a hypothesis that short-form online videos are linked to the daily routines differently than long films. They are integrated in daily routines, especially when using mobile phones in a more integral way. And it was called procrastination viewing in literature. But the result of the survey are surprising. We can't distinguish specific types of viewers linked to short-form online videos. It's rather mixed, and the most avid viewers are omnivorous. So that was the key finding of this second research. Omnivorous viewers. Watching more online videos is linked to watching more long videos. It's not mutually exclusive, so to speak. So if you can now scroll to the very last slide, and I will wrap up. To the very last one. So we will skip all the next slides until the very last one. Okay, that's too much. One back. Okay, so just preliminary results or some takeaways from these two research projects. One of them is the strengths of these social needs and practices rather than film-specific practices which explain viewer behavior. It's like the family time, the quality time with your partner and so on, which explains why viewers do what they do. That's one of the key findings. Also the idea that you replaced cinema going with watching films on VOD, but you don't necessarily think that it's good for you. You are actually quite shy about it, and you would explain it in a very peculiar way, such as I use it to babysit to my kids and so on. You know, not necessarily saying the Netflix is good for me. The Netflix has good movies. You know, these kinds of explanations were quite frequent. So I think I need to wrap up because my time is up. So thanks for the attention.
Thank you, Petr, for amazing introduction into the mysteries of audience research and on the approaches of how to reach back the audiences. And I would like to ask our panelists to join me in front of the stage. I welcome here Martin Horyna from Karlovy International Film Festival, Barbara Orlicz-Szczypuła from Krakow Film Festival, and Enikő Gyureskó from Verzio Festival in Budapest. And we will share the mic here. So Enikő, Basha, Martin, thank you for joining us. And I would like to start the debate with this little psychotherapy about last editions of your festivals and how actually did you manage to walk through the horrors of COVID pandemics and reach the audiences in the times that we can't call normal, actually. Martin, take.
So, in our case, I feel like we all struggled, but for us, I feel that we were one of the more luckier ones. First year, we cancelled the festival and replaced it with the regional event, Quiff at Your Cinema. So, in our case, we actually held something physically. At the time, it was impossible to organize let's say, large event with thousands of people gathering in public spaces. But cinemas that summer were open, so our dates are usually in July. So after the first wave of pandemic, we organized this regional event, screening 60 films in almost 100 cinemas around the Republic. So in this sense, we also reached different audiences. It was exciting, and there was kind of replacement. And then, after unfortunately being forced to cancel, let's say, small edition, we were planning for not last but 1 November, which was cancelled without any replacement. Last summer, we organized in August, so slightly postponed dates. We organized fully physical festivals with slight limitations in terms of our industry program, which was mostly held online, but the public program, including public screenings, including inviting guests, having delegations, went on. So in this sense, we were kind of lucky.
Yeah, in Krakow we have a bit different experience. In 2020 we decided to go online, and we organized the festival in the same dates, but it was the fully online. We prepared our own platform, streaming platform for films for the audience, and in the same time we made all our industry events also online, so we moved in totally. And the only, because there was the lockdown in Poland then, and the cinemas were open in the last, actually in the last day of our festival, so the only thing what we did in the cinemas were the screenings of Winners, with a very low audience attendance, but it was the first day of opening of everything, so it's yeah, it's obvious. And in 2021, it was a bit different situation. Since the beginning, we knew that we are going to make a hybrid event, hoping that the cinemas will be open in Poland, and it happened 1 week before the festival starts. So. Finally, we organized the festival in cinemas, but in the same time it was online part, and but it was very specific edition last year because the cinemas in Poland were open 1 week before the festival start, and it was the first weekend with open restaurants, hotels. And the weather was beautiful, and the holidays were started. So the audience attendance in cinemas were not so big, which we expected, of course. But this online edition was quite good. Again after 2020, and I just want to add that our online festival was organized. We decided to do this as a festival and not as a VOD, what means that the screenings were scheduled at a set time, and the viewers have to be ready to watch the films at the set time, not choose like we used to watch films in the platforms. So this is different, maybe like the other festivals did. So yes, from our perspective, we have a very different thoughts now for this year edition, and we are going to change it something and go to the VOD more than for the online screenings.
Hello everyone. So my festival is Verzio International Human Rights Documentary Festival, and it's in every year in November. So in 2020, it's been going on for a while. We were here in Prague in 2020 March, and on the third day of the festival, it was announced that everything has to be closed. And it was actually a meeting for festival organizers, and everybody was just crazily texting on their phones like, oh my God, my festival is also postponed. Like everybody was just collapsed. It was tough. So I think the first example that was shown to us was CPH Docs that went quite quickly. Maybe they had a few weeks to prepare to go online, so we just looked at them and followed the news from then on, and we made a contract with the cinema that if we see the situation is not getting better, we will cancel the booking for the venues. And yeah, we had to do that. At the end of September, we saw that it's gonna just get worse by November, so we prepared basically from the beginning of the year, from March, for an online version. And it was very lucky decision, good decision, because the day when the festival started, that was the day when the government announced out of the blue that they closed all the cinemas. So it was not, we didn't have such a case that cinemas had lowered capacity. It was just from full capacity to 0. And yeah, we had a lot of online events, but contrast to Krakow, we had a VOD platform, so people could watch films whenever they wanted. They had this 24-hour watch window and like 7 days, or I don't know how many days, rental window, and we had to get familiar with the whole system, the Shift 72 platform, which was recommended by most of the distributors for their safety, and it was also looking like a trustable website. Yeah, it was very interesting because we had to explain to our audience like how it's gonna all work, and we received a lot of emails about technical questions, but it doubled our audience. Basically, it was a crazy experience. We reached much more people than ever before with physical screenings. We had less films. We had just 51 films, and we haven't actually wanted to go for even less. But yeah, that's maybe another question. And last year we did a hybrid event, so we held a 5 days physical festival and then the online, and they complemented each other regarding the viewer numbers. So we had like 50% of the audience in the cinemas and 50% online, and there is a demand, like a big demand for from our audience to continue with the online platform also throughout the year. So that's what we are doing now. We have a year-round platform.
Thank you to all of you. I think that we all went through some kind of a dark times in previous editions. And I think that there can be some learnings from it. And I think that one of the words that resonate the most throughout the festival industry is, yeah, like you basically all used it, hybrid festivals, hybrid events. And I think that these hybrid festivals are mainly focused, and main perks of it comes for the industry people, matchmaking events and so on. But how do you think that the hybrid festivals can actually help to reach out to the audiences and to, let's say, bring, for example, new viewers to the festivals? Do you think that it has this potential?
Actually, I think so. I think that online for us opened the approach to the new people who are interested in watching films selected for our festival. So to watch the specific selection, and during last 2 years we have the completely new viewers, because we have statistics from 2020 and from 2021, and it is amazing because around 40% of the online viewers, there are the new people who come to festival for the first time. So this even 2020 it was even 60%. So completely new people, not from Krakow probably, from the other cities in Poland, and it caused that we made a decision to continue online in 2021, and in fact this year also we will have online, and I think that this is but from our experience, I can tell that we made one mistake also last year, because we decided to somehow repeat the 2020 edition and additionally to do the festival in cinemas in online in the same time, which was not good, because from the statistics which we have, we see that quite big number of people living in Krakow choose online instead of going to the cinema. Of course, the situation was very specific then because, as I said, it was 1 week of when everything was open. So maybe it's not good, but in general, this year we decided to go with online and to move this online edition a bit and start in the end of the on-site festival. But still we had a very big feedback and very strong feedback from the viewers in other cities in Poland who watched the films, who are very happy and who ask us to continue. So I think that this is a potential, and yeah, so I think so.
Take the floor.
Yeah. So in our case, as I already mentioned, the experience with online or hybrid is limited, and is limited to our industry programs. In 2020, we held all of our presentations of upcoming projects in online, and that was a great opportunity to reach out to like quite a huge number of people who we couldn't invite from like diplomatical reasons, because if you are inviting somebody, you also have to think about whether you can really accommodate those people and have them over and offer some kind of help to travel. With online, it's much more free to offer the access, and in this sense, we felt that's the right year to expand our industry audiences. And I think also at the time people were much more curious. CPH, you are right, was the first, and up until now I'm amazed how quickly they were able to change the nature of their festival, and I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be able to do that. I was just so amazed. But we were still only a few months in the pandemic, so people were really curious also about what we are presenting online. Last year, what we did with our industry presentations was to hold them hold them online, but with different dates. So I think it's also referring to what you said, that we felt that people who are at the festival might be interested still in that, but it's not a wise or smart thing to actually make those two let's say dimensions, like force them to compete. So also we felt that people are not really able to dedicate a week or 3 days of their consecutive time to be in their office and to watch presentations without some kind of freedom. So in the sense, we try to divide. Let's say, okay, we have different groups. The industry audience is very diversified, and let's focus on saying, okay, you are this type of the group. Let's say, I don't know, a sales agent looking for mostly completed films, so maybe this session is for you. Not to force everybody to be present at everything for, let's say, 2-3 days. And I think there was still an interest. We saw that people are interested in their specific things, not necessarily attending everything, which was our experience the first year. That I think people still felt, okay, this should maybe replace this gathering somehow. So let's be there, let's spend the time in the online environment. This year also, because of the structure we choose to adopt, it was different. It was more, let's accomplish my own task, meet just the people I need, focus on things and be much more effective. So that was our experience.
Do you want to add something, Enikő?
Well, our festival is an audience festival, so we do have a lot of Q&As and panels for industry and also for like human rights topics with local experts mostly. But because of the online version, we were able to have actually more guests and more discussions, and we could record them, and they are still available. So I think I am always too positive among other festival organizers, but I think it's really because we were so lucky with our timing. So we were always ready to prepare for the online version, for the hybrid version. So it was not like a surprise. We didn't have like 3 weeks to change everything, so we could really prepare. And I think also the chance to build an online platform for just the industry, which allowed them to watch from anywhere in the world. Unlike on the audience platform that's geo-blocked to the country, it's allowing us to reach and be recognized in more places. So I think it's good to keep this platform. And yeah, my only concern is that when is it gonna happen that the people actually return to the art cinema? So it's not just the festivals, but in general, the art cinemas are suffering from this problem. The other day in Budapest, in our festival center cinema, Toldi Cinema, I asked the cashier girl, okay, how many guests did you have today? And she said 17. Oh my God, that's like a very low number. And that's maybe 6 screenings. So yeah, people didn't return to cinema. And we have to really work hard on that to get them come back. I don't know what was the question, but I forgot that already.
I think that it was completely sufficient. Martin, I would like to ask you, you mentioned that you have not that much experiences with online for the audiences and for the festivals, but recently there was this, let's say, merge between your festival and the distribution company in Czech Republic, Aerofilms, and you want to establish this quiff.tv platform. So this should be some kind of synergy between the normal cinema distribution, online distribution, and the festival. Can you perhaps elaborate on that? What are your plans with this platform?
I can, but I cannot really go into too many details and be too specific, sadly. But in a sense, I have to say that the whole idea was brought up before the pandemic actually started with the VOD or internet television platform. And that was also part of the new investor in the festival and new plans with what can Karlovy stand for, what it can do. And there was this idea of, okay, VOD platform or internet television broadcast. It was pretty vague at that time, and of course, pandemic forced us to think about it differently, and it's still in the works. We started on some with some pilot projects last year. We actually have experience with online festival for the audience because Karlovy, like the company which organizes the festival, also run a Prague Short Film Festival of short films. It's like purely audience festival with very, let's say, small and focused industry element, but it's not industry event which would accommodate the needs of hundreds of people. It's really focused on certain tasks, and other than that, the festival is like public audience festival, and there we had some experience in it. There was actually the pilot project with Quiff TV, so that was the online Prague Short Film Festival, and there are some correlations in what like Petr was saying during his keynote. I can just give one example that is like logical conclusions, but we decided to put there a category like called ultra short, with very short films, but very short ones. I think it was up to 7 minutes, I guess, and those were very successful because this is also the mode of consumption is suitable for very short films, and this is something you can easily try. If you don't know what's going on here, you just watch the short one. And it's also like when you're at a festival, you are deciding whether to watch like 4-hour film, so the boat is somewhere else. Okay, do I have so much time and the patience to watch it. But here there are some correlations in what you were saying, and about like with different types of audiences looking for like different content, and it was also difficult for us to wrap our heads around like what is the way to actually program festival which will be primarily screened online. We also had some like follow-up physical screenings, but the main focus, okay, can those films work in online environment? But back to your question concerning Quiff TV and idol films. So it started before the pandemic, and I think with idol films it was also there was this idea of acquiring distribution company to have something to work with and work on, and in the sense idol films was a logical choice, and it was a good partner to offer, because also our contact over the years was we were very close in terms of how we got along, well, or were going along over the years, and the type of programs they are presenting, the way they care for films and are working on their PR when putting films into distribution. So this would be more question maybe which should be addressed to our management, but the merge in this sense was logical. That was okay, out of the companies which are there, this is one of the ones to go for as a first option maybe. So in this sense there was something like there was like a bigger plan and part of the bigger picture of what Karlovy can do, and of course bringing like experienced people with their own knowledge, because of course it's a different sphere, and trying to work together much more closely than before. That was part of it, but it's not really connected to what was happening during the pandemic, even though pandemic of course affects it, because the audience numbers are different, the audience behavior is different, but I think the pandemic affects the way we think about it now, how to approach it and how to do it, but it wasn't really affecting our decision to actually have this kind of portfolio.
Thank you. You actually come across an interesting topic for me, because you were saying that you were considering how the films actually would work in online environment, and that the type of programming in online is a little slightly different than programming into cinemas. We were at One World, we had this beautiful film Taming the Garden, which is obviously amazing, but for the cinemas, and we were really hesitating if it actually will work in online when people watch it on their notebooks or something like that, because it's visually like visuals of the film is really important. So I was wondering if all of you considered this in your programming, and how was your approach? Did you, for example, excluded some films because they couldn't work in online as much as they would work in the cinemas, and was it your concern, this type of problems?
In Krakow Film Festival, actually in 2020 we were very desperate, and we decided to move the whole festival online. And we only resigned from the program which was usually presented in open-air cinemas. So we screen a lot of films, and we have a lot of projection. And last year we did almost the same, which was a big challenge, because in fact we organized two festivals in the same time: online festival and on-site festival. I don't know very well these technical issues, but as I understood it, the preparing the files for cinema and for online was almost not very difficult, but I don't know details. But coming back to your question about the streaming platforms and how the festivals program this online. I have an experience from Krakow that after 2020, when we created our own streaming platform, we decided to use it during the whole year, and we opened some kind of monthly program, screening the films which were presented at the festival, which were prepared to online already, and we of course decided to create some thematic programs. But what was interesting is that this first edition, this first month, was very well watched by people, and then was the lower and lower people watching until the December, when we screened the short film program, which was set already that people like watching short films in different moment of the day, and it was a very big number of access to this program. But in 2021, it was not so successful. Our streaming platform, because what happened after 2020 is that some festivals opened their own platforms. In Poland, for instance, also the platform for cinemas were created for virtual cinemas. It worked like the art houses were collected in one platform, and you can choose tickets, online ticket to different cinema. And besides, in Krakow, especially in Krakow, the city of Krakow decided to open the city platform, the cultural city platform, with the intention of streaming the events which are financed by the city, or all the theaters, the theater plays, or music festivals, film festivals, and each organizer who is which is financed by the city is obliged to deliver the content from the event to be screened in this platform, and it worked quite good, I think, last year. And it's going to change into the news platform as well. So it's also quite interesting for me that it happens also on this level of the institution, the city, and the public institution. So yeah.
We have a very similar situation. In 2020, first platform came for art house cinema, not documentary, but with a few documentaries, and that had a huge marketing campaign, so it became quite well known. And then the art cinemas also opened their streaming platform, which screens in a certain time and tries to give the real cinema experience, where you can even gather in the virtual cinema hall and chat with the other viewers. And there is also one which is operated by the National Film Archive for classics. So actually we don't really see them as competitors, because we all show different content. And I'm just wondering if how long it's gonna be sustainable to have this year-round VOD only with documentaries. We are a small country, and the culture for documentaries is growing. Yes, every year it's growing. We have more and more people coming to the cinemas, and now we see that it's also possible to grow the audience online. But yeah, I'm a bit worried that there is a big competition among streamers, and yeah, maybe you worry a bit if you are on the right side, if you chose the winner in the end. Yeah, but the ultimate experience is that people who live in small villages where the cinemas are far, they are super glad that they have this chance to watch the films, and mothers who at night don't go out because they are with their children. So we received a lot of encouraging emails from different sort of groups.
Thank you. I think that we have only a few minutes left, so I was wondering if there's any question from audience on our panelists. If there's none, I will have the privilege. Hopefully it's not too complicated one, but I think that the most important thing, or one of the most important things when it comes to ways how to approach the audience is obviously PR of the festivals. So I was wondering if during the pandemic times you managed to come up with some new PR strategies, how to reach the audience, and what would that be? Were you depending mainly on social media, or were you trying to get to the audience more through the traditional ones like press, radio, TV? What was your strategy?
Can I just quickly answer that because I have the mic? So, yeah, I think traditional was still important, but of course the online was the most important. We spent most on not just the social media ads, but also cooperations with online press. And what was very surprising that we got invitation to this very popular morning show on the TV, commercial TV, which didn't happen before. So they were like, wow, an online festival, what that's like. And so we got to tell them, and that was really funny. Like we got stronger cooperation since we are also on the internet, so to say. Yeah, but it's also easier to promote an online event because you don't have to start the huge campaign months before. You can start maybe 1 or 2 weeks before to really push for it, because once you have the website ready and you can already start the ticket sales, that's when it's worth to drive the people to the platform. You can lose people if you drive them there, but this option is not available yet for them. So yeah, it was very concentrated and thought through, and it worked, I think. But with the hybrid, it was really difficult. So first, we were really thinking, okay, how much should we communicate the online? Because first we had the physical, and we wanted to drive people to the cinema. And yeah, like we announced and we advertised a bit the online, but we only put more effort in it once the physical ended. And there was another festival in Hungary that just thought the strategy would be better not to mention that they will also have online. And then when their physical ended, like they were like surprised, like ta-da! And now the online is beginning today. Everybody was like confused and a bit upset, because those people who went to the physical and took their days off from work just to be able to watch all the films were like disappointed, like they felt cheated a bit. So it's delicate how you communicate these things to your audience.
Yeah, and for us, this 2 years has changed a lot, because now, in fact, we have two ways of communication to two different groups: for the online viewers and to the people who'd like to come back to cinemas. And this year, for instance, we have a very strong strategy for bringing people again to the cinemas after these 2 years. Which is connected also with the difficulties that cinemas met during this time, and our full almost we resigned from a very traditional way of communication and promotion of the festival. We moved mostly to the internet now, and our promotion for this year is more focused on social media or on this quick information and the banners on internet and in that internet advertisement, because we noticed from the observed for last year that it makes sense, and this kind of information and communication reached our audience, because what happened in Krakow and our festival during last years, that we finally made our own research, and we know who's attending the festival. Who is our viewer, and we can now, prepare all this the communication and the address directed to the people who potentially will come to our screenings or join us online. So it was a big change, but we think that in current times this internet campaign and promotion, it makes sense. and can result with the bigger number of viewers, maybe.
Yeah, I think you are right that especially in terms like when speaking about those traditional festivals, and Karlovy definitely is one of those. It's a new challenge. It's about finding ways when you are establishing or starting something, you cannot use the same ways to communicate that. I remember it's I think 10 years ago with 47th edition, the campaign for Karlovy was putting around the country billboards saying 47th. That was it. So and it can work if you have traditional label, and it's not only cool thing to do, but it's also understandable. And when starting something new, you have to think about it twice before doing this. In our case, with our new activities and with also Quiff TV, we know that the strength we have is the label behind it, and the notion of there is strong curatorship at Karlovy, and we also want to talk about it when launching the VRE platform, that this is something curated, this is something which has DNA of Karlovy there, and it can make your life easier when starting things like that. But I think it's about the upcoming weeks and months to come up with something new. But it was also with the Quiff at Your Cinema event, the regional screenings. That was a new event which you have to explain and also try to find different ways of campaigning that. And it was the same with our online events. Just people don't know about it if you don't tell them. So it's not only finding a way how to campaign it, but think about it, you have to do that. And you have to think that the same thing which, like during the festival, you have ways to actually do the PR of the festival, and maybe tools you don't think about that they are actually PR, but your catalog is your PR as well. And how you approach this in online environment, because this is something which is channeling the audience. In Karlovy, we think about in which cinema you're actually putting certain kind of films. There is like one small remote cinema for more, let's say, experimental stuff, and people are not really thinking about it in that when attending the festival, but it's channeling them. It's also deciding which audience is not lazy and going there, is more active and knows maybe the programming of that place, and you don't have those tools in online environment. So we are, I think, learning on the way how to do that, and sometimes, it's a hit and miss sometimes, but it's new for us. I think it's exciting, but sometimes it's difficult.
And maybe a little fortune telling for the end. What do you think about the future of the film festivals, and not only film festivals but in cinemas in general? Do you think that the people will return for the cinemas and the industry will survive more or less in the same way it was before pandemics?
I'll take this liberty to, for once, do not think anything, because I just don't know. And I guess they will be returning, but it's anyone guess what will be the numbers, and I don't have any specific numbers in hand which could help me to think about it better. I wish they would, but I don't know.
Well, I do hope that they will come back, but I think that maybe it will go in the direction that the cinema will be something very exclusive, and that there will be some events to go to the cinema, because the people would like to feel something more than just sitting in the room at home. And I think that the cinema survive, but it will be different than we used to. And online will stay with us. This is how the world will change. It has already changed, and we all, I think, like watching films online on streaming platform. So this is what I think.
I think it's up to us. If we can do the work, then they will come back. There are a lot of people here at One World. As I understood, you are quite satisfied. Now it's a question to you.
Okay, I think that the audience will definitely come back to the cinemas because I think that we all miss it, and maybe it's a social bubble, but I hope not. I hope that we will manage to survive and come back stronger than ever before. So thank you to our amazing panelists. Thank you, Petr, for the first keynote speech, and thanks to all of you to attend this panel. And hopefully we'll see each other either at One World, which has its last day tomorrow, or at Eastdoc platform. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.